As promised, let's welcome in our panel. We're pleased to be joined by Jack Burkman, conservative strategist and host of Behind the Curtain, which you see Saturday mornings at 10 Eastern here on Newsmax TV. Jack joins us from Newsmax Washington. Likewise at Newsmax Washington, former investigative journalist and the former executive director for the GOP Trust, Scott Wheeler. Gents, there are growing concerns about the use of voting machines that are economically tied to leftist billionaire George Soros. The UK-based Smartmatic company provides voting machines for 16 of our states, including battlegrounds such as Florida and Arizona. The chairman of that corporation, Mark Malloch Brown, is also on the board of George Soros' Open Society Foundation, and he has ties to the Clintons through his work at two consulting firms. Jack Burkman, when you take us behind the curtain, you point out that you have had your hand in government advocacy, what we might call lobbying. Are things just a little too close to comfort in this with this economic relationship, or is this the way things have been done typically in Washington?
Yes and yes, JD. Hello there. Well, I will say that, this reinforces Trump's argument. All of this makes his case that the election is rigged, that the system is rigged, that the establishment is rigged. I mean, amazing. I'm amazed at how they find these insidious ways for Soros to use his money to penetrate. It just shows you how clever the Clintons are. Trump needs to really get out what Trump needs. Trump's being underreported in the polls. We don't know by how much. We hope it's 3 or 4%. It might just be 1%. But what Trump really needs to do is to get out. I think he needs to highlight the thing with the State Department, the corrupt deal with the FBI, and then use this secondarily, this thing with Soros, to fit his argument that the election is rigged.
Scott Wheeler, you know what the argument is going to be from the Clinton forces and those in the press who are quick to defend George Soros. They're going to say, wait a minute, Soros is a businessman. He put up the money for the Trump Hotel in Chicago, for goodness sakes, or a good chunk of it. Why should we believe that his multitude of interest has any involvement in the upcoming election?
Well, we know he's involved in the election. He funds over 1,000 leftist activist groups that do grassroots work for the Democrats, who promote the Democrat ideas under the guise of social justice. And so we know that he funds anti-Republican operations. That's not even in question. There are thousands of them, literally, and he commits hundreds of millions of his own money and other people's money to doing that. So that part's not in question. The real question is, would he do it illegally through rigging some voting machines from a company in which he owns some vested interest? That is hard to answer.
One of the things, JD, is Trump has got to be ready. I'm hoping, again, that, like I said, there's a lot of underreporting and that this thing gets real close. He's got to put together a legal team to get ready for recounts in probably 7 states. And this Soros thing can be a basis for demanding recounts in a number of states. He's got to get ready. I don't think they're doing enough to have the legal team ready. You don't want to be caught like year 2000, where Bush was behind the curve and had to put everything together quickly to kind of come from behind to beat Gore. Gore was very much anticipating what had happened.
Oh, look, they had the fix in. As a matter of fact, that was when I was in Congress. One of the untold stories I'll tell you guys right now. In 2000, the morning, quote, after the election, I get on the phone to then Florida Governor Jeb Bush, and I say, what's going on down there? He said, the last thing I did, Jeb said, before I recused myself was to call George saying, where are your lawyers? The Democrats had their lawyers on the tarmac at midnight Florida time. And I remember the member of Congress who was behind all of that. Ironically, he really lived in Maryland, though he claimed his mother-in-law's couch as his residence in Florida, which gives me the transition to this next story, which is there close to you, gentlemen, in Florida. Delegate Pat McDonough, a Republican candidate for Congress in Maryland, warns the old line state could be victimized by massive voter fraud this election. In a campaign press release, McDonough says a volunteer group found a large number of non-citizens were voting in Maryland's elections. The non-citizens were discovered after they were called in for jury duty and admitted they were registered voters despite their lack of citizenship. McDonough warns the system is broken. He's trying to take action in the State House to fix it, but it looks doubtful before the November election. In fact, Scott, during my days in Congress, Maryland started down this slippery slope with the rationale in some of the suburban communities that these people may not be citizens, but they're residents of our communities. Shouldn't they be allowed to vote? And that's how the camel's nose got under the tent there in Maryland. Your take on it, Scott?
Well, absolutely. We know that the Democrat Party does everything they can to make sure that the people who take from the system get to decide how the people who pay for the system's money is spent. And that's why you have this constant attack on the top 5%, which is responsible for 70% of the tax revenue. And the Democrats will continue to divide people based on that. I guarantee you, JD, if Latinos voted 51% Republican, the Democrats would be the biggest advocates of a gigantic, massive wall and deportation of every single person that didn't belong here.
You know, JD, it's funny you bring up Maryland. Behind the curtain, we've done some independent work on this. We have had a number of guests on the show. Are you ready for this one? There are more than 200,000 people on the Maryland voter rolls who no longer live in Maryland, and those are just the ones they have found. This is fraud on a level that, my God, there's not another state in the country that could even dream of this. Even in Chicago, Mayor Daley couldn't have dreamt of doing anything like this. They're getting desperate in Maryland. You know, with Hogan winning, they feel like there's something they can't control the electorate anymore. They're getting more and more desperate.
Well, desperation is not the name of this game, but healthy debate is here on America Talks Live. And as our name suggests, let's talk to America at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629 to Bethpage, New York, where John is on the phone. Hi, John.
How's it going, JD?
Great, thanks.
What I would like to say is she gets into office, Hillary Clinton. You've also given a pass for 500,000 migrants. Okay, I've spoken to lawyers, construction workers, accountants, etc. This will be a full revolution if she gets in that seat.
Well, you hear now, John, as you say this, what is going on? Are you saying rhetorically a revolution?
You can go onto YouTube and look up the Black Panthers supporting Donald Trump. Okay, you could look at so many people supporting Donald Trump. Okay. They do not want this in this country. Who is going to pay for them? You're worried about these Bernie people, the millenniums and all them. You're worried about them and their school. What about the security of this country?
Well,
you're going to let all these people in.
Yep, there is a fundamental problem. And Scott, as we take a look at Hillary's announced intentions in her first 100 days, full amnesty for illegals. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Scott, that if these folks were coming into the country and not solid Democrats, boy, the Democrat Party would be all for making sure we had border security. But the shoe's on the other foot. They see this as an electoral advantage. The heck with the law. And that's what we're facing right now.
Absolutely. And what comes to mind is Robert K. Dornan, a former congressman from Southern California, who you remember, one of your colleagues, JD, who lost an election to Loretta Sanchez by about 960 votes. Dornan rounded up at least that many people who voted in the election for Sanchez illegally. And yet no one was standing by to even question this on the part of Republicans. They generally reacted fairly weakly to it and didn't think it was worth fighting for.
Well,
JD, go ahead, Jack. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we've talked to this Project Veritas. I'm sure you're familiar with them, all of the undercover videos. We've had them and others on the show. I mean, by my estimates, Hillary Clinton is now spending tens of millions of dollars hiring consultants to go out and find Latinos in various communities, to buy them cars, to give them a fake pay stub, to pay them for 2 weeks as though they have a job. just to get them to the polls because that can vote in certain states. What's happening to her is that she can't mobilize Latinos because they really don't like her. So in places like Colorado and Nevada, they're petrified. So they're resorting to just corruption on a huge scale. And she has so much money. She may end up spending $1.5 billion. Trump's probably going to spend $110 million at most. The spending could be like 15 to 1. Her campaign is just oozing with so much money. She can literally throw away $100 million on things like this. It's sad.
It is sad, but it's something we will pursue again after we take a time out. Jack and Scott remain with us. You stay with us too and give us a call because we welcome your phone calls. After all, the name of the program is America Talks Live. More discussion, more of your calls right after this.
We are behind. She has some advantages like $66 million in ad buys just in the month of September, thereby doubling her ad buys from August. Most of those ads are negative against Donald Trump, classic politics of personal destruction, cesspool kind of ads. And she has tremendous advantages. She has a former president, happens to be her husband, campaigning for her, the current president and first lady, vice president, all much more popular than she can hope to be. But she's seen as the incumbent.
I think he's going to win because I think people in this country have had enough, and he's the change agent. When it comes down to risk in this country, Hillary's been tested, and she's failed. She is the risky candidate. You look at Russia, a uranium deal, giving them control of 20% of the world's uranium. Her pocketing hundreds of thousands of dollars on speeches, Russian reset, Libya. You look at Iraq and the mess that she left there. I mean, what I'm saying is she was tried and tested. She failed. She's too risky for this country. That's why she's going to lose.
Where were these women before? Where were? It's not like my father's a hidden individual, right? I mean, he's one of the most known people in the world. Whether
Several have made accusations in past court filings going back many years.
Whether he was building hotels, 15 seasons of Apprentice, and then the day that the Hillary WikiLeaks come out, you know, all of a sudden people start coming forward. I think you'd have to be really naive to think that one and the other, you know, weren't coordinated together. I mean, I think somebody would really need to be naive.
It's a scandal, and she didn't answer your question at all, and she turned to embrace the good work that the Clinton Foundation has done, and she has a case there. But the mixing of speech fees, the Clinton Foundation, and actions by the State Department, which she ran, are all intertwined, and it's corrupt.
Portion of yesterday's Sunday shows, we watched them so you didn't have to, but we're pleased that you're watching America Talks Live, and we're going to talk more to you momentarily at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Our two guests from Newsmax Washington, conservative strategist Jack Burkman, and also there at Newsmax Washington, the former executive director for the GOP Trust, Scott Wheeler. Gentlemen, let's get right to the phones, and I'm going out to a community that used to be in my congressional district for part of my time in Congress. Tempe, Arizona is where Dusty is on the phone. Hi, Dusty.
JD, well, hello from beautiful, sunny Arizona. It's a nice day out here.
Good deal. What's on your mind, Dusty?
I just wanted to, especially for what you guys are talking about today, just give a little perspective from somebody who hasn't voted in 20 years.
Oh, gee, I could have used you back in 2006 in that midterm, but that's okay.
I know. Well, I wanted you to stay on as our sports. You did such a great
well,
job with the sports.
Thank you,
JD.
brother. Let's go to what's going on with this election, Dusty.
Okay, so this election, like I said, I normally don't vote, but I have to vote in this election. And let me give you my background. I've got a master's degree. I'm a software engineer, 47 years old, served in the military during the first Gulf War, and truly love my country. I've done a lot of community service in my life. And out of all the blather, all the noise, all of the distractions going on right now for this election, one thing made this independent voter change his mind. And that was when I saw a Donald Trump event that had been recorded, and he had invited on the stage these people called angel moms. And so I went and did my research on these angel moms and was shocked to find out the horrible stories of our children that have been murdered and raped at the hands of illegal aliens who have been here 7, 8, 9, 10 times deported, most of them criminal. I couldn't believe it.
And you never hear
could
that from the
not believe
dominant
it.
media culture, but you found out for yourself, Dusty, and so you are a Trump voter now, correct?
I am a Trump voter, and I wasn't necessarily going to vote for Trump. But like I said, 1 or 2 issues for me is enough to push me over the edge. And by far and away, the safety of my children is paramount over anything else.
All right,
I
Dusty,
cannot
we
I
appreciate
cannot
the
have
call. Thank you so much. Hope you'll call back. Gentlemen, you heard from Dusty. Like I said, I could have used him in 2006 when I finished second. Border security was a big topic with me, but that was then. This is now. He's heard the message. And I guess my question is this, first to you, Scott, the rise of alternative media and the internet. Will it make a difference for voters like Dusty? Will it bring Mr. Trump across the line and give him a victory in 2 weeks?
I think there's several things, and he hit on a couple of them. One is the alternative media. I don't like referring to what they call the mainstream media as the liberal media, because they're not really liberal. They're Democrat Party apparatchiks. If they were liberal, they wouldn't be able to tolerate the corruption.
Maybe we ought to use
in the
Mr. Trump's definition, corporate media. That may be better, and so we'll switch to that. But the point is, the alternative media, the rise of the internet can make a difference. What say you, Jack Burkman?
Oh, sadly, JD, I hate to be a pessimist. I don't see a path for Donald Trump, barring some tectonic event. I mean, even if he takes Ohio and Florida, I don't see Virginia's out of play. He's going to be essentially what I call -17 for where Romney is. It's going to take something that could shock Pennsylvania or maybe somehow shock Colorado. Trump has to stage something. I think he's onto something with her health. What I would advise him at this point is go with the drug test. And I think he made a mistake, although I think he won the last debate and did generally well. He should have said, will you take a drug test? Let's see what's in your bloodstream. What are you taking for your health? Reveal that to the American people. With only 2 weeks to go, you don't have many options. You know you're down. I mean, there's a couple of polls that show a dead heat. He's got to make something happen. And I think the drug test might be the thing.
All right, let's get back to the phones at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629. Another Arizona caller from another city I used to represent. In Mesa, Deborah is on the line. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, JD. How are you today?
Fine. We appreciate you calling in on America Talks Live.
Yes, I've been watching your show this year because I'm trying to recover from an injury that happened to me a while ago. But first of all, let me give you my background. I am a certified public accountant and also registered nurse, which was unusual. And why I'm calling is the Wall Street Journal today, Clinton ally aided FBI wife.
That's right. That is Terry McAuliffe. Yeah, Terry McAuliffe, the Virginia governor, the guy who raised all that money for Bill Clinton's reelect, raised a big chunk of it from the Chinese, sought out the wife of a prominent FBI agent who was running for the state Senate and gave, $500,000 from his PAC to her campaign. And then that same FBI agent was the guy who was conducting the probe of Mrs. Clinton. And so you're right to be concerned, Deborah, and I appreciate the call and that great background you bring as a CPA and an RN. I hope you'll call back. Let's go to that, Scott. All these interesting, this web-like situation, McAuliffe, the guy who's now, an assistant director of the FBI, and the FBI agent's wife getting over $500,000. Seems to me that Deborah is onto something, citing that Wall Street Journal article.
Absolutely, and it's not only that. In fact, Clinton's attorney, David Kendall, her former law partner was the head of this investigation for the Justice Department. Richard Scott is his name. He ran this investigation for the DOJ, and it was a couple of things tell us why it was clear this was rigged from the beginning. One is all the early reporting from the Washington Post and the New York Times all said that official sources did not expect Hillary Clinton to face any charges. Well, how would they know at the beginning of the investigation unless it was predetermined?
That's a very good point.
Yeah,
Very
and
good point.
Go ahead, Jack, very quickly. I want to get another
I would
call.
say one of the things Trump has to do to break through the clutter, because there's so much out there, he has to demand an answer from her. He has to say, with all the corruption surrounding this, are you aware that the State Department made an express trade, a quid pro quo, with the FBI to give them overseas bureaus and access in exchange for declassifying key emails? And he has to go like a prosecutor and say, are you aware? Are you aware? He has to go every day to a press conference and say, I demand an answer from her. He's not doing that. He should begin today.
Well, there are a lot of questions that remain to be answered, and we certainly appreciate the fact that you gents took time to talk about these subjects. Again, Jack Burkman, who is host of Behind the Curtain, which you see here on Newsmax TV Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, and Scott Wheeler, the former executive director for the GOP Trust. Both of you gentlemen checking in from Newsmax Washington. We thank you very much for your time and your thoughts, and we'll see you again soon. Take good care. Now, we're going to have more of your calls at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. If you had a busy weekend and missed what is being called Donald Trump's Gettysburg Address, we will have that. And we will also welcome to the anchor desk someone you know pretty well here from Newsmax TV, someone who has had the ear of presidents and their wives, and a presidential wife turned candidate. Dick Morris joins us, the New York Times bestselling author of Armageddon, How Trump Can Defeat Hillary. We'll see what Dick has to say headed down the home stretch and take more of your calls. It's a very busy Monday here on America Talks Live, Hour 2, back right after this.